Coming to you from deep inside the bowels of a great big empty. Get ready for another episode of The Home Defense Show with Skip Coryell.
Hello, American families. Welcome to this week's episode of The Home Defense Show. I'm your host, Skip Coryell. And if you love your family, care about them deeply, and want to learn how to protect them in every facet of your life, then you come to the right place. Oh man, we have got a great show for you guys today. We are going to have on in segments 2 and 3 a man named Eric, aka Utrecht. That's a mouthful. I hope I'm pronouncing his name properly. We'll find out in the second segment when I actually talk to him. But he likes to be called Utrecht. So he is the president of Michigan Gun Owners. And we're going to talk about Michigan Gun Owners, the MGO organization, Second Amendment rights group. And then we'll also talk about some training, some force-on-force stuff, a lot of good stuff with Utrecht today. Well, this past week, I have been bow hunting for the first time in, about 10 months? Oh man, the Michigan archery deer season has started. I went out Monday and Tuesday. I saw like 3 deer on Monday, 2 on Tuesday, but nothing closer than 100 yards. So, hey, I just had to watch them wave at me from a distance, but I'll be out there again this afternoon in the cold, damp, and I will get that Bambi. Don't you worry about it. I'm still training. It's October, getting a little chilly out there, but hey, I was out on the range again last night. One of the church security teams that I train regularly, I was out with them last night, and I put them through the course. I didn't tell them what it was going to be ahead of time. I didn't want to scare them away, but I just called it the course. It kind of reminds me of the Princess Bride. He's got that torture device, and he calls it the machine.
And I'm here till I die?
Till they kill you, yeah.
Then why bother curing me?
The Prince and the Count always insist on everyone being healthy before they're broken.
So it's to be torture. I can cope with torture. You don't believe me?
You survived the fire swamp, you must be very brave. But nobody withstands the machine.
So I put these poor guys, there were 4 of them last night, and I sent them through this course, and it was only a 14-round shooting course, but it lasted, they were probably shooting for like 5 minutes just because of what I put them through before they could get to shoot. First, we had them, we started the shot timer, and then we had them punch the bag hard for 30 seconds. Then they ran to cover, and then they drew and shot 2 rounds, and then they ran to the next cover, did some push-ups, shot 2 more rounds, and ran back to the first cover and did jumping jacks, and we went back and forth, running in place, jumping jacks, push-ups over and over and over again. And for the coup de grace, I surprised them. I had my crossbow set up with a deer target in honor of archery deer season, and for bonus points, they could shoot the deer. So they did really well. I was surprised. All of these guys are in their 40s. And boy, I told them last month to work out because, and get ready for this, because I was really going to put them through their paces this month, and they did. They came back. Boy, I had one guy run through the course like 3 or 4 times as a fireman guy, and he's in pretty good shape, for a man of his advancing years. But he did great. They shot well. Why is that important, folks? Well, it's important simply because when you get in a real-life altercation, a gunfight, or someone's trying to stab you, kill you, whatever, you're going to have an elevated heart rate. You're going to be breathing like crazy, and you have to know how to think and act and respond to defend yourself while you're under extreme duress, because, that's where it's all at, right? It doesn't matter what you do on the square range when you're punching holes in paper. It matters what you do when that guy jumps out behind the bush with a knife and tries to stab you. So really, I think the best way to simulate that isn't by shooting at your students. You know, it's hard enough to get these students to come to advanced training without shooting at them. But, so we get their heart rate up. We make them exercise. We yell at them. We scream at them. We give them multiple tasks. That's one thing I found. Multitasking, for some people, is more stressful than yelling at them or screaming at them or making them exercise. So, hey, we do all three. I make them multitask. I yell and scream at them, and I make them exercise. And the trick is doing all of that safely. And we do that routinely here at Midwest Tactical Training. It's just one of our trademarks that we do, and it's really, really good training. Well, hey, let's launch right in to the good stuff here. We're going to go over the news here, and then in segments 2 and 3, we'll have Trek Utrecht. Say that 3 times fast. Start with the news. All right. This lady, a stabbing victim. Woman stabbed at least 30 times in critical condition. You know, you just read that headline and you go, what kind of a person would stab somebody 30 times? Well, not a choir boy, not someone who has, all their marbles, he's just not a normal person. I keep telling you, these people are not like you and I. They're different. Stabbed 30 times. This is from Monroe, Louisiana. Monroe police say a woman is in critical condition after they say she was attacked by another woman who used a hammer and a knife. Odd combination. Family identified the victim, 28-year-old Jessica Benjamin, a mother to 5 children. That's sad. The family also tells NBC 10 that Jessica was stabbed at least 30 times during the attack. They say the attacker is the girlfriend of the father of Jessica's children. Oh, what a tangled web we weave. That's not part of the article. That's my commentary. The more complicated you get your life, the more you bring shady people into your life, the more likely you are to have things like this happen. I'm not saying this is lady's fault. It's certainly not. But, boy, I'm guessing she got involved with a man who wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed, wasn't a moral, upright man, had 5 kids with him, and then, for whatever reason, it didn't work out. And now the girlfriend of the father of her children is angry. So she's going to take it out on her. We may never know the backstory on that. Jessica's aunt, Rebecca Benjamin, commends the Monroe police officers on the scene. She says after they secured the suspect, they covered the children's eyes so they wouldn't be further traumatized by the crime scene. Oh my gosh, happened in front of 5 little kids. Police say the suspect, 21-year-old Jalasia Pleasant, now that's a misnomer, nothing pleasant about Jalasia, is now under arrest and charged with second-degree attempted murder. The police were called to the scene at 1:18 in the morning. Oh, that is so sad. Officers found the victim laying in front of the front door of one of the homes of Oregon Trail. She was airlifted to LSU Shreveport. Her injuries included several lacerations and blunt force trauma. She is listed in critical condition at this time. Wow. Man. What was that I said just a few weeks ago? 53% of all murder victims know their attacker. And this lady knew her attacker, but I don't think well. I think, they may not have even met, but she knew of her by name, and it's just that's the way that it goes, folks. Man, be so very, very careful, especially when you're out there dating. Man, if a guy's a no-load, if he's not bringing something to the table, if he's not morally upstanding, then just get out of there. Just say, nope, you're not for me. Of course, you have to be morally upstanding yourself in order to recognize that. But, man, I tell you, just be so careful dating out there. It's a minefield. It's like every third person out there in the dating pool is a genetic wreck. So, gosh, so sad. Let's look for some happy news here. Oh boy, this article here, this one just happened right here in River City, Grand Rapids, Michigan. Suspect in Joey Vitale's killing charged with murder and other felonies. A man accused of fatally stabbing Joey Vitale, the owner of Vitale's Burton Heights Pizza. I used to live in Burton Heights in my first marriage. That's a rough neighborhood. That's the way I remember. Of course, that was, 35 years ago. Maybe it's great now, but back when I was there, it wasn't the best neighborhood. A lot of crime. He's scheduled for arraignment Friday, October 5th on an open murder charge. The 33-year-old suspect is also charged with carjacking and armed robbery as a fourth offense habitual offender. There it is again, folks. Fourth offense habitual offender. That's just the way it is. It's like some people are just bad seed. They get started on this life of crime and they don't end. Keep these people out of your life. I don't even know if Joey here even knew that man, but let's read on and find out. Vitale, 33, was stabbed Wednesday, October 5 at the restaurant while the suspect caused a disturbance at his restaurant at 315 Burton Street Southwest. So he probably tried to get the guy to leave or calm down his restaurant because he's got customers in there. And the guy's a nutcase, so he tried to kill him. He tried to drive himself to the hospital but crashed his car on Welty Street near LaGrave Avenue. This is a senseless act, family friend of stabbing victim Joey Vitale says. Workers and friends held a candlelight vigil for Vitale, 31, a married father of 2 girls. That's sad. Police said the suspect was found by a police tracking dog not far from the scene. The jailed suspect is expected in court at 1:30 p.m., court records show. So sad. Well, there's 2 stabbings right there. I keep telling you, folks, knife attacks are getting more and more prevalent, and they are. And hammer, blunt force trauma, it's right there. These people are crazy, they're mean, they're evil. Whatever they got closest to them, that's what they're going to kill you with. Sometimes, with their bare hands. So please, folks, please be careful out there. In a case like that poor woman from Louisiana, a hammer and a knife. What she needed was a gun and some training. Get some gun and a training, and she could be alive. I mean, she had a suspicious, ex-boyfriend that she probably still had to deal with because, she had kids with him. I'll tell you, that's a nightmare scenario right there. I have been married to crazy people. I really have, and it is not fun. All kinds of bad, terrible things can happen to you. It can be the nightmare on Elm Street. So, folks, be very, very careful about who you let into your life. All right. Well, unfortunately, we're out of time. No more happy stories. We're out of time. Let's take a 2-minute break here. While I'm away, go ahead and check out our sponsors, EliteFirearms.us, and call Larry Jackson and go ahead and get the right firearm the first time around for personal offense, and then go to firearmslegal.com/MidwestTactical and see what they can do to help protect you if you ever have to use your firearm in self-defense. When we come back, we're going to have Eric Utrecht from Michigan Gun Owners here, and we're going to be talking about all kinds of good stuff. All right, folks, this is Skip Coryell on Home Defense Show. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
My name is Cedar Coryell. Welcome to the Home Defense Show with my dad, Skip Coryell. Don't go nowhere. We'll be right back.
This is Skip Coryell from the Home Defense Show, and I want you to have the very best handgun that money can buy. And that's why we recommend you visit Larry Jackson at Elite Firearms and Training. As a concealed carry instructor, I see people every week out on the range with guns they can't shoot properly because they didn't know what to buy. That will never happen at Elite Firearms and Training. Larry Jackson will personally fit you with your very own personal defense pistol. So call Larry Jackson today at 616-299-8715 or visit elitefirearms.us.
This is Colonel Danny Gillum. I host Frontlines of Freedom, a weekly syndicated military talk radio show. One of my co-hosts is Skip Coryell, the host of this show. We cover things that impact military and veteran communities, and we do it from the veteran's perspective. The show is broadcast across the nation and is also available as a podcast on our website, frontlinesoffreedom.com. Please join Skip and me weekly on Frontlines of Freedom.
Okay, folks, welcome back to the Home Defense Show. This is your host, Skip Coryell. I am speaking today with the president of Michigan Gun Owners, Utrecht. Now, Trek, welcome to the Home Defense Show. That's a mouthful.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
All right. Now, Trek, president of Michigan Gun Owners. You know, I'm a member of Michigan Gun Owners, but that's fairly recent, just in the last couple of years. So sure. I would really like you to educate me about MGO. Who is Michigan Gun Owners? What are they all about?
Yeah, so it's funny you say that. I've been a member of MGO for quite a few years, a lifetime member now for, I want to say, 2 or 3. My primary relationship with MGO was as a small business owner, actually sort of an affiliate for a long time, especially with the late, great Mike Borders, who passed away in recent history. He will certainly be missed. He and I had a really good relationship, and I had the opportunity when the most recent election came up. I had a couple of people say, hey, toss your name in the hat. We'd love to have you on board. And I just got lucky. It was a great honor to get elected, especially then to be elected as the president by the board of directors. So, yeah, I jumped into the seat, the president. So going from a member to the guy sitting in the CEO position has been quite a whirlwind. The long story short, haven't been around too long in the grand scheme of things. You know, when you look at some of the clubs out there, I just got done teaching at Blue Water Sportsmen's Association, 1937 established. We've been around since 2002, incorporated in 2003. Quite simply, what I love about the organization is it's an easy mission statement to memorize. We're here to help train and educate people about responsible firearms ownership, and then the other end of the spectrum is to protect the Second Amendment. Essentially, I look at that saying we need to hold our politicians accountable because they're the ones that are making the laws that can make or break those rights protected under the Second Amendment. So that's the long and the short of it. When I came into office, we were about 1,605 members. I'm really happy to see that we've had a huge influx. We're now hovering around 1,750, 1,800 members as of the past week or two. So that's really awesome. The whole goal is just to get in front of people, let them know that there are responsible gun owners out there, and they are working to try to protect the rights of others, even though we know life can get in the way. And sometimes trying to get out there and get involved can be a daunting task. And now there's organizations like MGO, and there's other great organizations out there that are putting in the legwork so that everybody doesn't have to do it, but they can support us, and that makes our job that much easier.
Yeah, it certainly does. And Trek, I want to thank you for taking over for MGO and putting, because I know it takes a lot of time, and in some cases even your own personal money, to get these organizations up and running and keep them going. I mean, I did the same thing with Second Amendment March when I organized that, and
sure. Then
before that with Ted Nugent United Sportsmen. It just takes a huge amount of your time. So thank you very, very much for that. You know, let's get to know you a little bit more personally here. I'll just ask you some questions, and you just
sure.
tell me what you think I want to know. All right. Okay. What's your everyday carry gun? Your favorite carry gun?
Oh, that's going to be, all my students are going to know this one. It's a Glock 19. It's an old beat-up workhorse that I've been carrying for a while, and I always joke, I've probably spent about $20,000 in my life on handguns, and I think I have finally found the one that hopefully I will go to the grave at a very, very old age, and it'll be buried in my casket with me. But, you know, I do a lot of teaching, I do a lot of shooting, and it's just a gun that it carries easy, it shoots easy for me, very reliable, and it has never proven me wrong. So yeah, that's my go-to every single day.
Well, and you know, one of the upsides of the Glock is, in case of the great zombie apocalypse, you won't have any trouble finding spare parts. Because it's just
you're absolutely true about that.
It's so prolific.
Yeah.
Just...
you know, and it really is. You can get about every part except for one or two for about $5 to $15. Very reliable. I think mine's got about 50,000 plus rounds through it, and she's just beat up. It was really funny. I was posted in Recoil magazine, and part of the gear of the pros, and people said, "Why is it Trek's gun looks like it's used all the time?" And it was really funny because it gets used all the time, so it didn't look like a brand spanking new catalog item. Yeah.
Well, I'm the same way. I have a Glock. I've got a Glock Model 22. That's what I use for my primary home defense gun. If you come into my bedroom late at night, you'll meet my Glock. When I walk around during the day, I'll carry a Smith & Wesson M&P full frame in 9mm, which I like. I mean, I like them both. I like the M&P series. I love Glock, and it's just so hard to choose one gun. But mine's all beat up as well, just tens of thousands of rounds downrange, and that's the way it's supposed to be. So you got like custom iron sights on it, or have you customized your gun at all?
Yeah, so we are very blessed to be sponsored by ATI out of Taylor, Michigan, who started the top serrations, and I have gun number 2. And Doug actually gets really mad at me because I show the gun off, and he doesn't offer the serrations that are on it anymore. And then when people ask for those, he calls me and threatens my life. And I'm just joking about that mildly. But it's got serrations in the side, it's got serrations in the top. I actually run the 4 $35 flat black metal sights. We're finding that for fine marksmanship, which self-defense is all about fine marksmanship, making sure that we hit exactly what we're aiming at. A lot of the times the cool bright sights, the ones with the tritium vials, which they say are designed so you can see your sights at night. Well, if you read that statement really slow, you see the error in it. We actually need white light to engage threats at night. So we're finding that the industry standard is to go to a flat black metal sight, one, the metal for resiliency, and two, so you can get those sharp right angles which you need to line them up on there. So yeah, I don't have too much crazy stuff. I did a stipple job with a wood burner on the side of my gun myself just to get a little bit extra traction. But I don't have a gold nitrided barrel or anything, crazy on there. She's just, anything I put on there is going to be for function over, form.
Sure.
But you brought up a great point. And this is, I think you probably agree with me. I looked, your training background and teaching background, and, especially even now that I sit here in the seat of MGO, because there's a lot of people out there that are getting new into shooting, and they're always just, the internet just hits them with the guns that they got to get. I look at it this way. If you have what I call the trifecta, if you have a gun that you'll carry without excuse, and you and I know that there's a lot of people that buy guns that they're just too big or too bulky to carry. So if you can get a gun that you'll carry without excuse, if you can get a gun that will go bang every single time that you pull the trigger, and you have a gun that you can shoot accurately, if you've got those 3 criteria right there in a gun, rock on. If you find that your life support gear isn't working, definitely don't hold on to it because you have the pride and ownership because you paid money for it. Just, get rid of it like it was a hot potato. And then you back that up with a good belt, a good holster, and you're going to be just fine. I always laugh about I say that Glocks are the superior weapon system, and I make a joke. But there's people out there that show up to classes that have all sorts of different types of guns, and they work and they shoot them just fine. So yeah, I know it's really daunting for a lot of new shooters, but if they can just have those criteria, they're going to be just fine.
Yeah. Yeah, and you pretty much know right out of the box, as soon as you shoot a gun, especially for a beginner, you pretty much know whether or not they should be shooting that gun. There's all kinds of problems with recoil management and grip and just, all kinds of stuff like that. So you find one good gun that you're in love with, that's a good day.
Absolutely. And, that's why gun stores stay in business. If you walk into most gun stores, they make their money on used guns. And those guns, you pick them up and you're like, this thing's used? It's because somebody took it out to the range, they bought it, and they absolutely hated it. Look at the most commonly owned gun in the United States for self-defense. Handgun is going to be a J-frame or a small automatic. And the most uncommon guns to see in a firearms training class are a J-frame revolver or a small automatic. So people carry them. They don't like to shoot them. But that's where we got to find a balance, because if you're not shooting them for training, you're probably setting yourself up for a bad day.
Yeah. Well, Trek, what I tell my students, and I was teaching a church security team, 7 guys just last week, and they were carrying tiny little guns, cute little things, and for church safety. And I said, if you shot a larger gun, you'd be a lot more accurate, and for what you're using it for, you're going to be taking longer shots. You might be in more of an extended gunfight if you ever have to use this thing. And I just asked him, I said, if you were going to get in a gunfight at 5 o'clock tonight and you knew ahead of time, would you want your gun or would you want my gun? And he didn't bat an eye. He said, oh, well, I'd want your gun. I said, well, then maybe you need to make a change, because the whole idea is, gosh, if I ever use this, my life's in danger and I'm in a gunfight. So, boy, get something that's going to help you survive the gunfight.
Right. Yeah, I'm a big fan of, as a formally trained educator, I'm a big fan of statistics, PowerPoint presentations, and flowcharts. So I always joke about that. The statistic that every one of us should have in the forefront of our mind when we leave our house is 18%. And if you think about 18% comes from the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, that is the average hit percentage of expert law enforcement officers in gunfights. Mm-hmm. So we're taking the cream of the crop, the guys that shoot better than any other law enforcement officer in the department, and they're saying that on average these guys have an 18% hit ratio. And when we're starting to get into the convenient guns, the small guns, which are nice to carry, but we're getting into the realm of 5 to 7 rounds, like a J-frame revolver or an LCP or something along those lines. If you look at it, you've got that friend that has the 357 titanium scandium uber light gun. They're terrified to shoot it, but they throw it in their pocket every day. And if you still then say that they are an expert, if you give them the benefit of the doubt, if they're in a fight, they might get 1 round out of that 5-shot cylinder into the bad guy. And if they're not, because they don't train, that's a terrifying statistic. And so, I'm right there with you. I think if once people start to look at data, once they start to look at the realities, if you're going down to the convenience store in your flip-flops and T-shirt, and you live out in the middle of the woods, and the last time there was a robbery, it was because a black bear walked in the convenience store and stole a picnic basket. Okay, you're probably all right. But if you're going somewhere where the threat level is a little bit higher, you might want to carry something with a little bit more oomph.
I know what you mean. For the average mugging, those 5-shot revolvers, they work just fine, because what are you, like 3 or 4 feet away? There's no such thing as a long distance mugging, right? So, for the average mugging, that's really what those guns were designed for. I mean, you can get through a mugging from 3 feet away with one of those little pocket guns. But an actual gunfight, no, that's not what I feel warm and fuzzy about. All right, hey, we are getting shy on time here on this segment.
Sure.
But hey, I feel like I know you a little bit better now, and I am certainly happy about that. So before we sign off for this segment, real quickly, tell people where they can go during the break to check out Michigan Gun Owners.
Yeah, that's an easy one. It's just www.migunowners.org. We've got a brand new website, and it's got all the information that you need right there.
migunowners.org. Okay. All right, folks, we got a 2-minute break. While you are away, go to migunowners.org and check them out. And when we come back, we'll be speaking with Trek Utrecht, the Michigan Gun Owners president, and I think we're going to talk about some political stuff here. We got an election coming up. All right, folks, this is Skip Coryell on the Home Defense Show. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
This is Felix Curiel on the Home Defense Show. Always use guns safely and wisely. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hey folks, I want to tell you about my book, Civilian Combat, the Concealed Carry Book. More and more people across the country are seeing the dangers in society and are deciding to carry concealed to protect themselves and their families. My new book lays it out step by step. It'll teach you how to protect and defend the ones you love. Get the benefit of 17 years of teaching experience and a lifetime of training for this important role in society and in your family. You can get Civilian Combat real easy. Just go to Amazon.com, search on Skip Coriel Civilian Combat, and it'll pop right up there. Don't put it off any longer. Get Civilian Combat, the Concealed Carry Book by yours truly, Skip Coriel.
Wouldn't it be wonderful if life was like the movies and the good guys always won? In today's world, if you're forced to use your firearm to protect yourself, you will need protection. Firearms Legal Protection is here for you. FLP provides you with seasoned, experienced attorneys that handle your criminal and civil matters as a result of you protecting yourself. FirearmsLegal.com provides its members with uncapped attorney's fees, bail bond protection, and coverage in all 50 states. We are not a reimbursement plan. You can access uncapped attorney's fees for as low as $10 a month. Firearms Legal members are provided with educational services, training videos, and access to our vast national attorney network. While you're protecting yourself, let Firearms Legal protect you.
Listen up, folks. This is important. There are plenty of legal protection services out there, but none will protect you as well as Firearms Legal Protection. This is the one I use and the only one I recommend. Visit firearmslegal.com/Midwest Tactical and protect your family now. Okay, folks, welcome back to the Home Defense Show. This is your host, Skip Coriel. I am speaking again with Utrecht, the Michigan Gun Owners President. And in the last segment, we just got to know each other. And hey, I think we get along just fine, and we have a lot in common. So, Trek, you mentioned that you're a trainer. What classes do you teach and where?
Well, I own a little company called MDFI. We train all over the state of Michigan, all over the country. I'm actually excited. I'm wrapping up a season of over 80 classes this weekend in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I teach with my good friend and training mentor, Will Petty from Center for Use Training. We're going to be running the Vehicle Close Quarter Battle program that's just been adopted by the FBI and U.S. Marshals. So we've got a bunch of students coming for that, and then I get to hang up my hat, finally, for the live fire season, and I go into my classroom and force-on-force and indoor training part of my season. So, yeah, I'm formerly trained educator. Company's called MDFI, and we just we train every discipline to include less than lethal handgun, shotgun, rifle, shoot house classes, just about you name it. And if we don't teach it, we bring in folks that do.
Well, that sounds great. What is there I'm sure there's a website for MDFI. What is that, Trek?
It is trainmdfi.com.
Trainmdfi.com. All right, I will check that out. Okay, now, Trek, we've got an election coming up. Boy, just about a month away now, and boy, there's a lot at stake. I mean, we've got the governorship up, Attorney General, Secretary of State, and the legislature. What do you think about the two choices for governor?
Well, I have to be very, very careful with this one being the representative of a not-for-profit organization as far as support. But I will say this: you couldn't be further from, couldn't be closer than the truth. As I was. We have a lot at stake when it comes to the state of Michigan, the country as a whole, with these issues. And I'm I consider myself a constitutional libertarian. It's very difficult because what do we not see a lot of times? We don't find a lot of libertarian candidates that have too much of a chance out there. But we start to get into this realm where, there's a lot of different issues, but especially with the mission of MGO, with what you and I are talking about, we understand that with the Second Amendment, with its success and protection or its degradation and removal, every other right falls. So the biggest thing that I would say about the upcoming elections is we need to take a deep, hard look at any political candidate, look at the record of protecting the rights of Americans, Michiganders, to have the ability to defend themselves, because I come from a law enforcement background, and law enforcement are reactionary.
Yeah.
There's very little budget now to be proactive, and if we do not have people that are supposed to be, quote, representing us, and making sure that we can defend ourselves, like you said, your Glock will meet anybody that comes into your bedroom at night. Without that ability, you're going to be staring possibly at a bad guy's gun, and your help with the red and blue lights are going to be 5 to 10 minutes away. And so I really have to, I hate to say it, I have to look at every single election personally. What is the Second Amendment part of their politics? And if I don't like it, I understand that it doesn't matter about the rest of politics, because they're setting us up for failure.
Yeah. I think you're right, Trek. You mentioned law enforcement. They're primarily reactionary, and that's certainly true.
Sure.
I guess in my opinion, as a, just regular Johnny Cupcake kind of guy, I really don't want a police officer on every single street corner, because that's kind of what, the Soviet Union had, and I don't really want a police state. I want to be able, and I don't want to outsource my family's protection or my protection, because there's no one who's always going to be there. I mean, you don't want a cop attached to your hip all the time. I want them there when I break down on the side of the road. And
you bring up an interesting point. The budgets for law enforcement aren't there the way they used to be, and there is such a thing as community policing. When we look back in the day of our parents and grandparents, there were the beat cops that everybody knew that were there in that general area, and everybody knew them. They were part of the community, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But you're right, on the flip side, what we don't want is we don't want New York City. We don't want to have a citizenry that is, one, so disarmed, two, so sheep-like, that now we have to put cops on every single corner with MP5s, because the bad guys know that there is literally no one in the citizen population that could stop them, and so that they then, by proxy, have to put uniformed law enforcement everywhere, because they're the only people that could possibly do any good in a bad situation. So you're right. I would love to see budgets where we could have community law enforcement that everybody knows, that are responsible, that literally know every family and can identify if somebody isn't from that area, and just talk to them and say, hey, what can I do for you? But at the same time, we do have to avoid where now we're bringing in people because that neighborhood is disarmed.
Yeah.
And that's a completely different, that's really the difference right there between the two.
Well, and I think right now law enforcement, it's like they're having to go through a lot of transitions, because, you look at the, like the Antifa movements and all these other social things that are happening. It's like, I think police, if I were a policeman, I would be a little hesitant to go down into communities where most of the crime is, and then just by virtue of being there, be accused of something that I'm not doing. I mean, it's gotta be traumatic for a police officer to draw his gun these days, because it's like he's danged if he does and danged if he doesn't, or dead if he doesn't, because it's like he's accused of all kinds of things. Oh, you shot too fast, and if he shoots too slow, he's dead. It's like, how do you find the balance point there? I wouldn't want to be a cop right now.
Sure. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Law enforcement's under attack. And when I was at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, one of the things that really stood out to me was a lot of law enforcement officers wait too late to draw their gun because they're more afraid of the repercussions.
Yeah.
Getting yelled at than actually protecting their life. And that's a big problem. That tells you the state of affairs. When we look at the 1920s, how the gangsters were the popular ones. Everybody wanted to be a gangster. And then we had the junior G-man, and we had the flip-flop. But we certainly right now are in the everybody wants to be a gangster. And our law enforcement that are there, that, the Supreme Court has said they have absolutely no duty to protect.
Yeah.
But they do. And that's a huge thing. So the people that cry on one side, well, no, they don't have to, but they do. They wake up every single day. And we do. We've got cops right now that, you can look at Baltimore after, I believe it was the Freddie Gray case, you had the Baltimore union, the police unions, basically saying to the cops, listen, you guys are under attack not just by the citizenry, but by the government, so don't go anywhere by yourself. Make sure there's at least 2 of you, and do not partake in the stopping of minor crime. And what we saw was a huge spike.
Yeah.
Because the bad guys realized, holy crap, there's not going to be any repercussions because the law enforcement was so afraid of doing their normal arresting processes and getting in trouble.
Yeah.
And of course, there are bad apples in every part of society, doctors, nurses, military, law enforcement. But come on, if there's those people out there, if cops were all bad, we would be in a far worse state than we're in right now. So yeah, you're right. It is a daunting thing to wake up every morning and go, you know what? I'm going to go deal with other people's problems.
Yeah.
We should give them a lot more respect than we do.
Hey, I certainly agree. Now, you when you talk about cops, hesitating to shoot or waiting too long to shoot, I see that in my classes with people going for their concealed pistol license. It's like they are so wrapped around the axle, so terrified of the criminal justice system. What's going to happen? Am I going to get in trouble if I defend my life? Is that what you're seeing in your classes too?
Yeah, so I see both ends of the spectrum. We see people that, and I say, we teach the threat engagement process. The first part of that process, threat assessment. It's the biggest cheat that you and I do as firearms instructors because we generally yell a standby command and then some gun, threat, shoot, whatever it might be. And then people shoot a cardboard target. That actually, though, is the most critical step, and a lot of people fail at it because they don't get the education on constitutional use of force. So a lot of people don't understand the difference between a guy standing there with a rake in his hand who is just raking saying, what are you talking about? And a guy that's picked up a rake off the ground, has it cocked over his shoulder at head distance away saying, what are you talking about, in a really aggressive voice. Mm-hmm. They can't differentiate. At the same time, we see, especially in force-on-force classes, we see people that are put up against an assaulted person, somebody that just wants to put their hands on you. And we have seen simulated homicides where the person then draws a gun and shoots somebody that does not warrant the threat of serious, or the reaction to threat of serious bodily harm and or death. And this is where it goes to that old adage, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And so I always tell people, you need to have medical training, you need to have firearms training, which is very important. But if you have no use of force education and you leave the house every day not understanding when you can and cannot use certain tools, you have to think of it like the captain of the Titanic. Imagine that captain sailed past that iceberg and then literally said, that was a lot of fun, let's do it again, and turns the Titanic around.
Yeah.
Because every day those people leave their house and they miss the Titanic. That bad guy or that assaulted person never encounters them. But they're waiting for the day that iceberg moves in front of them, and instead of turning right or left, they're going to do something wrong with use of force, and it can either get them really hurt because they don't use enough force, or it could get them in hot water because they actually become the aggressor. And we see, unfortunately, YouTube and the internet gives us tons and tons of those examples every day.
Yeah. Yeah, well, when you talk about the people who, go out of their way to go into maybe bad neighborhoods or even in their own mind, it's like they're a legend in their own mind, and they're waiting for the day when they go out there and actually, can stop a bad guy or be the hero. That is just, that's an accident waiting to happen. It really, really is, because, we are never as good as we think we are in our own mind when it actually comes right down to it.
Yeah, so the way I look at it is I have to leave the house prepared for a fight, and I have to be worried about the day that I leave the house looking for a fight. Yeah. There are lots of people that leave. Michigan State Police gets dozens and dozens of calls every rush hour in the morning about people brandishing weapons in road rage incidents. Mm-hmm. So they drive up next to somebody and pull out a gun. And it goes back to that, when we look at street signs driving down the road that are full of holes, it was not an anti-gunner that shot that street sign. It was somebody that carries a gun that would say they're pro-Second Amendment, and they're putting holes on a public road in a street sign that's publicly owned. So people that are driving with a gun, the Second Amendment states that they can keep and bear arms, that then decide to brandish a gun because somebody cut them off in traffic. They left the house looking for a fight, and one day it's going to bite them in the rear end, and that's not doing any of us any good.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned force-on-force training several times now. And I really agree with you, because roughly 85% of all altercations do not rise to the level of deadly force. So a gun's not going to help you in those situations. I always carry, some pepper gel with me as well. And then, of course, operate at a heightened state of awareness, know what's going on around me, and avoid all those bad things. But talk a little bit about your force-on-force training.
We have two. We have, first one's called When a Gun is Not an Option, kind of an aptly named class. And the entire seminar class, it's all about situational awareness, as you talked about, kind of the old Cooper color codes, which have been kind of taken out of context, but we talk about condition yellow, which is that heightened state of awareness, not exhausting, just paying attention to what's going on. And we talk about situational awareness. We talk about reading other people, understanding ourselves, and understanding based on other people's actions what we can lawfully do. And the entire day then focuses on the different types of tools that are available. Pepper gel, there's 400-mile-an-hour pepper spray guns out there. There's tasers, which Michigan's kind of done a disservice to tasers with their legislation. But we go through all sorts of different tools. We talk about the tools you can't use. I've got this change purse that's full of 5 pounds of pennies, and I'm going to whack a guy in the head. Well, no, that's not a less than lethal tool. That's called a kinetic energy weapon, and you should probably just shoot somebody if that's the case. And so once people have that understanding, the next level we have, it's called the human element. And we actually teach this down in Muncie, Indiana, at the Midwest Threat Assessment Center, the 6,000 square foot shoot house facility, and it's all UTM. So it's they call it NLTA, non-lethal training ammo. I still call it less than lethal because I don't want to take a hit when I'm unprotected. That could cause serious damage. So it's a fully UTM or NLTA training facility, and we get the students into their full face masks. We have training guns that shoot a very, very unpleasant little cartridge. We call it giving somebody the bees because it feels like a good bee sting when you get hit. And we put them into real, not crazy scenarios. In fact, one of my scenarios is called buy a Butterfinger. And I just send you into a convenience store to get a cup of coffee and buy a Butterfinger off the shelf. And something inside happens that is a real life scenario, something you would take from news stories. And we then get to evaluate each student. They have to do use of force reports. They have to write down exactly what they did and why they did it. And the cool thing is, out of 14 students, they don't get to watch the other students do it. So then we have a courtroom, essentially, at the very end, and each student talks about what they saw, and it's amazing to see how some people missed the guy that was open carrying, reading a magazine, and other people saw him, and they were skirting along the wall because they were so afraid, and I asked them, is that how you go into a convenience store if you see an open carry? Are you really going to hug the wall? Are you really going to try to get behind the cash register with the cashier? We've seen students that get so nervous they shoplift the candy bar. They walk in, they forget to pay, and they walk out the door because their brain's turning, and they're always expecting worst case scenario. And we just want them to understand that you do this stuff every day. The worst part is if you make the wrong call, you'll not get a second chance. So we give them the opportunity to learn from successes and from failures. It's a really good time. It's a 2-day class. It's exhausting. It's 2 very full days. They go through about 15 to 16 full-length scenarios that vary from news stories that we take from all over, and then we talk about case law and how it applies to what they did. So it's a good time, but to me, it is some of the most difficult classes to fill because they don't make great Facebook photo profile pictures because there's no brass flying out of the gun. Yeah. It's you with a notepad that's not a glorious photo. So, yeah, we need to get people to understand those are the most important type of training that you can get. Guns are cool, but they're not the end-all, be-all.
Oh, absolutely. And, actually, you sound very passionate about the force-on-force training, and it's something that I want to check out. I imagine students can check that out at trainmdfi.com, correct?
Yes, they can.
Okay. Yeah, Trek, that is awesome. I'm going to have to check that out and do some training with you. Because it just sounds like a good time and like I could learn some stuff too. So that would be really, really good. Trek, we are about out of time for this segment. but I've had a really, really good time talking to you and getting to know you a little bit better. So, Trek, thank you very, very much for being on Home Defense Show.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was an honor.
Okay, and again, you can go to, Trek is the president of Michigan Gun Owners. You can go to migunowners.org to check that out, or check out his training company at trainmdfi.com. Check out that force-on-force training as well. I know I certainly will do that. Okay, folks, we got a 2-minute break. Go ahead and check out all those things. Also, check out our sponsors, firearmslegal.com/Midwest Tactical, and then go to elitefirearms.us. Okay, folks, when we come back in the segment 4, I'll be talking about what I really think. This is Skip Coryell and Home Defense Show. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
Welcome to my dad's Home Defense Radio show. You're gonna love it.
Hey folks, I want to tell you about my book, Civilian Combat, the Concealed Carry Book. More and more people across the country are seeing the dangers in society and are deciding to carry concealed to protect themselves and their families. My new book lays it out step by step. It'll teach you how to protect and defend the ones you love. Get the benefit of 17 years of teaching experience and a lifetime of training for this important role in society and in your family. You can get Civilian Combat real easy. Just go to Amazon.com, search on Skip Coryell Civilian Combat, and it'll pop right up there. Don't put it off any longer. Get Civilian Combat, the Concealed Carry Book by yours truly, Skip Coryell.
This is Colonel Danny Gillum. I host Frontlines of Freedom, a weekly syndicated military talk radio show. One of my co-hosts is Skip Coryell, the host of this show. We cover things that impact military and veteran communities, and we do it from the veteran's perspective. The show is broadcast across the nation and is also available as a podcast on our website, frontlinesoffreedom.com. Please join Skip and me weekly on Frontlines of Freedom.
This is Skip Coryell from the Home Defense Show, and I want you to have the very best handgun that money can buy. And that's why we recommend you visit Larry Jackson at Elite Firearms and Training. As a concealed carry instructor, I see people every week out on the range with guns they can't shoot properly because they didn't know what to buy. That will never happen at Elite Firearms and Training. Larry Jackson will personally fit you with your very own personal defense pistol. So call Larry Jackson today at 616-299-8715 or visit elitefirearms.us.
Skip, it is Armed America time.
All of us here at Frontlines of Freedom want our listeners to get trained and get armed in that order. We fully support the right to keep and bear arms for all law-abiding families, and we encourage you to find out about the laws governing use of deadly force in your state and follow them to the letter. And of course, don't forget to follow the rules of safety and common sense whenever you're carrying a firearm to protect the ones you love. What's the story this week, Colonel?
A notorious pedophile had been found dead by police after he was shot dead during an attempted rape of a 12-year-old girl at a property in Morgantown, West Virginia. The 42-year-old mother of the girl told investigators she woke in the early hours of the morning after hearing a commotion in her daughter's room. She grabbed a shotgun from her closet and rushed to her daughter's room, where she was confronted by the sight of an unidentified man struggling with her daughter. Startled, the man turned around and faced the mother, at which point she fired directly into his face, blowing off most of his head. The rapist, a 53-year-old sex offender known to police for a series of crimes on young victims, died instantly. I believe that.
Well, it's hard to argue with a shotgun at close range. Well, thanks, Colonel. This story is very unusual and not typical of most pedophiles. Most pedophiles do not break into your home and try to force themselves onto your children. In fact, according to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, most pedophiles are not strangers at all, but are people you and your children already know. Many times they are authority figures in your child's life, such as coaches, teachers, religious leaders, or even police officers. Pedophilia is at epidemic levels here in the U.S., and you should take precautions to protect your children against this crime. Here are 4 things you should know to help protect your children against pedophiles. 1. Be very active in your child's life. You should always know where they are and who they're with. Take time to meet the adults in their life. Hold adults accountable. Many pedophiles look for children who are isolated and who appear to not have other adults as protectors in their life. Just by being active with your kids, you can deter many pedophiles. 2. Sexual abuse on children isn't just a big city thing. It happens in the country as well.
According to the U.S. Department of Justice, there is one child molester for every square mile of the country. The days of letting your children run free are over. 3. Make sure your kids know the names of their anatomical parts. Many times molesters will use cute names for these parts, but if a child is knowledgeable, then he projects power and will be avoided by predators. And 4. Teach your kids that it's okay to disobey adults in certain situations. It's okay to say, no, you can't touch me, or no, I won't get into your car. Tell your kids it's okay to run away whenever they get that intuitive or gut feeling that something is wrong. In our story today, the mom did a great job in stopping the pedophile. In fact, I give her an A+, and I don't often do that. After all, it's hard to hurt a child when half your head is splattered against the wall.
That's sort of a happy ending, indeed.
Okay, folks, welcome back to the Home Defense Show. This is your host, Skip Coryell. That was a good time with Trek Utrecht from Michigan Gun Owners and also from MDFI. You know, I had heard of MDFI before, and I went back and I did some checking. I'm on their mailing list. You know, I probably don't read, half of the email that I get through. I'm so busy, I just scan through it, and if I don't recognize somebody's name or something, I just delete it. Otherwise, hey, I get behind, I won't get any work done. But I went on MDFI, trainmdfi.com here, and say, let's find out about this Trek guy. Sounds like an alias, doesn't it? Is that really his name? So hey, I checked it out. Sure enough, there's a video there, and nice website. And I was looking at their available courses here. It says when you're a newbie is one course. I'm assuming that's their intro, the handgun course. When a gun is not an option, Trek talked about that one. That sounds interesting to me. Simply because, hey, 85% of all altercations do not rise to the level of deadly force. And that's where most people are weak. It's like, how do you use the gun, draw the gun, and use it, and when you don't know when you can do it and when you can't? Take away the unsurety, all the doubt in your mind, and, hey, find out what the legalities are and, when you're morally justified in doing what you want to do. Here, core courses here. Here's the name of this course. It says, You Suck, It's Not the Gun. That one caught my attention right away, so I'm going to click on that one. Let's see what this one's all about, because, I can't tell you how many times I've had to tell people tactfully, you suck, it's not your gun. All right, it says, okay, You Suck, It's Not the Gun is our core firearms class, developed after witnessing scores of shooters blaming their pistol sights for missing their intended targets. They show how focusing on and practicing the core fundamentals of shooting, so it sounds like a basic shooting class. So that sounds good. Let's go back to these other courses here. Carbine Basics. I could use some more carbine training. Oh, here's another class. This must be their advanced class. It says, You Still Suck, It's Not the Gun. Oh, well, I'm hoping that after both the You Suck classes, you don't suck anymore. So that would be good. And then foundation courses, they have Foundation Handgun, Foundation Carbine, Foundation Shotgun, and here are the advanced courses. Low light handgun, that sounds like fun. Low light long gun, and then handgun cover and movement, that sounds fun. And then long gun cover and movement. Here's some specialty courses. When Things Go Bad, Beyond a Door. Shoot House. The Shoot House. I have got to go. He was talking about a 6,000 square foot shooting house that was in, I believe he said, Muncie, Indiana. Said this is a problem-solving class, not a shooting class. You just happen to have a firearm with you. This is the class to run your gear as you have it set up at home or your daily carry gear. They talk about less than lethal, probably simunitions, I would imagine. Boy, you can learn a lot. Yeah, and it's in Muncie, Indiana. The next one is November 10. November 10 and 11. November 10, if that date sounds familiar to you, it's because it's a very important date in history. On November 10, 1775, at Tun Tavern, was the birth of the Marine Corps. Tun Tavern was the first Marine Corps recruiting office. Seems appropriate, a tavern. All right, all my Marine Corps veterans and friends will recognize November 10, the Marine Corps birthday. Oh, this one's sold out already. Darn. $500. But yeah, I'll catch them. They've got one February 2nd and 3rd in Muncie, Indiana. Maybe I can catch that one. All right. Hey, they've got a lot of good stuff there. I'm looking at it. I'm loving what I'm seeing. And I'm definitely going to check out Trek Utrecht from MDFI and get some more training. You know, some trainers, it's like there's this competition. You know, it's like, hey, and there's this pecking order, right? And, you know, I was just at a indoor gun range this morning. And, you know, we're talking away and we're being very open, you know, yeah, things are down right now, but they're starting to pick up and, you know, talk about training that we've had. And it was just a really good casual conversation. But we treated each other like equals. Don't fall into the trap where you start comparing yourself to other people. You know, whether you're a trainer or a student, none of that matters. What matters is, can you protect yourself and your family? Okay, just put the ego aside. Man, I love it when I find someone who's better than I am. I mean, not that I have to look, you know, all that hard, but, you know, I love it because I can learn from that person. And when I'm talking to my peers, my fellow trainers, I pick their brain and I go, hey, well, I didn't understand that term you just used. Tell me about that. You know, and that's what I do in interviews. I'm not afraid to say, listen, I don't know something. Teach me. That's how we learn, right? So get out there and find people who are better than you and hang out with them. That's how you get better yourself. It's a really good way to run all aspects of your life, not just your firearms training. Okay, well, I guess we are running out of time here, folks. Hey, things you got to do before next week. Oh, next week, what do we got? We've got Gabe Suarez from Suarez International. We're going to be talking about back shooting. You thought, gosh, I can never shoot someone in the back. I'm going to go to jail. Well, you know what? That's just not true. And Gabe's going to tell us when you can and when you can't, when it's wise and when it's foolish, when you should and when you shouldn't. That's what Gabe does. He tells it exactly like it is. He's going to talk about warning shots, shooting the wound, all those things that people are kind of hesitant about and they just don't know what's going on. So Gabe Suarez next week going to be good. Between now and then, I want you to head on out to Amazon.com, pick up Civilian Combat. Oh, good news, I almost forgot to tell you. I finished The Blind Man's Rage, and it is for sale on Amazon.com. Go to Amazon.com and just search on Skip Coryell, The Blind Man's Rage. That is book 4 in the God Virus series. You've got to get this one. You have got to get this one. All the bad guys died. They died with extreme prejudice. I'm not going to tell you any more than that, but man, it's worth reading just so you can watch the good guys triumph and the bad guys go down in flames. Well, okay, folks, that about wraps it up for this week's episode of the Home Defense Show. Until next week, remember your purpose in life is to find something greater than yourself and serve it. Always remember, God, family, country, in that order. It's important how you live, but it's equally important how you die. Your family and the ones you love need your protection, so train, always train, stay alert, stay alive. Until next week on the Home Defense Show, this is your host, Skip Coryell. God bless you, God bless your family, and God bless America.
Thank you for joining us this week on the Home Defense Show. Now, get out there and protect the ones you love. We'll see you next week with more of the best in home defense.
Bye-bye, boys! Have fun storming the castle!